Hello, and I too would like to say it's been a fantastic day and it's been real rich brain food, and thank you for that and thank you for inviting me. I'm going to take a different sort of slice, which is that I was the Director of Equity and Diversity and have been in a number of places, so I bear some of the responsibilities of what you're saying about diversity, but let me just talk a bit about it. I personally don't ever really talk about diversity without actually also thinking about power. So in terms of today, I've taken a bit of a sort of slice into the day along those lines, which is that I felt that the first speaker was talking about the planned environment as if talking about it as historical accretions of dominant power relations. And I thought that was a really important thing for me to think about in terms of the city, that layering up of those power relations. And which makes it, and we're aware of our colonial history, but it makes us aware of we're starting with this place that is already structured by that sort of power. And then I really like Marla coming in with the way and the disruptive action of the art in suburbia and using the art for as a mode of expression for less powerful communities, and the way in which that started to get their identities on the agenda and also then shape the identities of the area. I thought that was a really nice notion of we've got that inequality, but there are ways of coming in and subverting it and challenging it. And I thought I really liked and took a lot from that. And it made me think a lot about, back to the thing about tradition, because I was thinking about our Indigenous cultures, and I was thinking that the way in which our Indigenous community tries to find a way to get itself onto the bigger agenda, our white colonial agenda, is by asserting their tradition. And I said to Nazar at lunchtime, is it different? When we're talking about traditions, of course, that tradition is shaped and some of it is mythologized and some of it is various things. But is it different when a less powerful group tries to assert tradition? Do we have a different attachment to the notion of power of tradition? So I thought that was very interesting, and I liked that. The whole idea about the disruption, and then the contrast between the gated communities and the suburbia, where they were doing different things, interested me, because I thought, well, why is that? Why is it there's not much going on in the gated communities, but a lot in the suburbia where there's the art projects and different identities? And I thought, well, in a way, because that's out in suburbia, and actually Sydney, as Debbie says, Sydney is a sort of separate enterprise. It's rich and owned, and the dominant power structure is comfortable there, or in their gated communities they're comfortable, but the space out in suburbia isn't of such interest. So it's again about where maybe there's a different space for power relations to be challenged and changed. So I was interested in all of that. And then diversity. I completely agree that diversity has become a sort of bucket category, and it can ossify otherness. And I think it's been used in those ways. I think that's become more palatable, it's been taken into mainstream management, because it does often divorce from a discussion on power, and there's difference in power to define. So I really like Ruth's exploration of it. I'd love to read it because I couldn't keep up with it all. But I actually thought, and the importance of going first of all for the positive, for trying to find the similarity, and for going in at a more individual level. But I have to say, I too felt concern about if you lose the categories, you lose the historical inequalities. And it's almost like the old notions of equality. Equality of opportunity was we'll all start from the same place and we'll all get given the same opportunities. Whereas if you remember the colonial or the historical disadvantage, then you know that that's not equality of opportunity. So losing the categories, I think, in terms of difference, national racial differences or whatever, I think also costs you. So is there a way of intervening in a at an individual level that doesn't use those categories, but keeping some of those categories for your analysis in terms of planning and thinking. So a difference of that. And just to say, I know you don't have much faith, Nazar, in the notion of a Vice-Chancellor of, or Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Equity and Diversity, but can I say, actually, universities are the perfect sites for the encounters you talk about. There are multiple ways within a university, especially within our universities, which are, I mean, I worked at UNSW as well previously, and UTS. They're very diverse communities. And they are perfect sites for encounters because, you know, setting up student training programs or doing any of those things, there are a million and ones, or in the bar or in the restaurant or in the whatever. They're perfect places for encounters and to manage that difference. And these people will go out to be the leaders of research, the leaders of education, the leaders of professions. So if we can get social justice right in universities, then I think it's a very important thing to do. But it isn't at the level of the sort of anodyne notions of diversity. So those are the things I thought about. And I want to just say I've really enjoyed the afternoon, and thank you very much.